Welcome back to another Random Bits. In this video we're going to look at something that often trips up people when they first learn to code. So whilst computer programs use English-like words, they often have very strict rules about how they are used. Computer programs also use lots of semicolons, brackets and other punctuation characters in very specific ways, which can be very confusing at first. These rules are called the programming language's syntax, and if you don't stick to them, you get syntax errors, and of course your programs won't work. So on the screen here we have two programs that do the same thing. The one on the left is written in Lua, and the one on the right is written in C#. Don't worry if they look like nonsense, they'll make perfect sense by the time you finish the series of videos. So if we run these two programs, first the Lua one and then the C# program, you'll see that both of them print out x is less than 100. Alright, so let's have a look at some syntax rules. So first off, most computer programs are read from top to bottom, left to right. And that is how the computer will interpret them. So it's something important to remember, that if you mention something or give an instruction to the computer before you've actually declared it, for instance, it will get very confused. So when you're writing your computer programs, write them from top to bottom. The next thing is that many programming languages are case sensitive, and both Lua and C# are case sensitive. So for instance, if we change this I to lowercase I to an uppercase I, let's save that file there and try run the Lua program again, we'll see that instead of getting x is less than 100, we get an error message. And the same thing on this side. For instance, if we were to change that as well, you will see when we run this there, we also get an error message. So be aware of the case when programming. Programming languages can also be very picky about their reserved or keywords. For example, if we're back in looking at the Lua program here, if we change this from then to than, which might be okay for a human to read, if we run that, we see that once again we get an error, because Lua is not expecting the word than, but is rather expecting the word then. Also, most programming languages don't really let you change the meanings of their keywords, which will make sense later on. And the other thing that you'll discover is that most of the time, most programming languages use the American spelling of keywords. So particular things like color or program would be the American spellings. And another thing that trips up people when they first learn to programming is the opening and closing of brackets. So you'll see these round brackets here. Generally in programming languages you should have a matching set. So for instance, if we start a bracket over here, we would expect to find a closing bracket somewhere else in the code. And once again, if we took away that bracket and try to run the program, we'll get an error message saying that we're expected a closing bracket somewhere. This also holds true for things like double quotes. So you can see we're starting a double quote and we're ending a double quote there. Same over here. As well as with braces, or these squiggly little lines. We're going to start one there and we'll finish one over there. We'll start one there and finish one over there. These are used in C# and not so much in Lua. In fact, to make things easier to see that things are matching, programmers often format their code in very specific ways. So for example, in this piece of C# code, you can see that I have lined up my braces and the instructions for the computer so that it's very easy to read. Put in spaces or tabs, or this extra white space in front of your programming language or programming instructions is known as indentation. And generally most computer programs or computer programming languages don't care about the indentation. That's there purely to help the software developer. So for instance, if I was to do this and maybe take out this, save that and run it again, you'll see that the program runs perfectly fine, but it's just a lot harder to read. In fact, with C# you can probably do things like this and collapse all sorts of things down, and it will still function. It's just very, very hard to read. Let's just undo that. All right. Now the last thing I want to talk about is comments. So comments are parts of computer programs that are ignored by the computer itself, and generally they're there so that computer programmers can leave notes to themselves or to others who are looking at the programming code. So for instance, this here, these green pieces are comments, as is these ones over there and over there. In Lua, comments are started by a double dash followed by a piece of text, and the computer programming language will ignore everything after the two dashes. In C#, you get two styles of comments. The first is a block comment, which allows you to write a large amount of text, for instance. And block comments start with a /* and end with a */. And then the second type is a line comment, which just starts with a double slash. All right. Well, that's about pretty much wraps it up for syntax. In the next few videos, we'll get stuck into actually writing some code. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with others. And as always, thank you for watching.